interviews for the People and Training Conference for Propel. And this morning, I'm so excited to be joined by the person who heads up the all things people to one of my favourite companies on the planet. There's a big drum roll entrance there, so please welcome Andy O'Callaghan. Good morning.
Morning. Hi, Abby. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, all things considered, pretty good.
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to jump straight in, and I suppose we're really interested to hear, how you would describe Dishoom. For anybody who doesn't know it, how would you describe it?
Sure. So, I guess Dishoom. So at the moment we're 8 restaurants. We've just opened our most recent one in Birmingham. In fact, we were about to open Covent Garden in a couple of weeks' time, but clearly that was slightly delayed, which is a reopening of our original restaurant, which has been completely refurbished. But how would I describe Dishoom outside of like numbers and 8 restaurants? I guess Dishoom really pays homage to the old Irani cafes in Bombay, and in sort of years ago, 1960s, 70s, there were hundreds of these cafes, and there were these really communal spaces where anyone could come together from any culture, any religion, any class, and sit next to anyone, or indeed share a table with someone. And they were probably the first places, or they were the first places in Bombay certainly, that did that. And it had this real sense around breaking down barriers. And I think if I was to describe Dishoom to someone who had never been to a Dishoom before, we have this real sense of community when you go into our cafes or restaurants. And you might be sat down, and you're whoever you are, and to the left of you, you might have a group of students who are nursing unlimited chai and a bacon naan roll, and to the right of you, you might have someone there having a business meeting. And they're just these, what I believe, and I'm maybe a little biased, these beautiful spaces where people come together, on our best moment, having exceptional service, great food, and just these real sense of community places. They're quite large spaces. Our restaurants are quite big. And yeah, it's a real sense of sort of being somewhere where there's a sense of occasion in terms of the groups of people who are there. That makes sense?
Yeah, amazing. That's exactly how. Yeah. It's funny. That's how a lot of people who work in there describe Dishoom, but it's exactly how you feel when you go in as well. It really, just in terms of yourself and your people team, how long have you been there, and what does your people team structure look like?
Sure. So I've been with Dishoom for almost 4 years now, or just over 4 years. And the people team structure is, I suppose the way I think of it is probably in 3 different strands. So we've got our talent, recruitment, attraction team, who are very much focused around, how do we get the best people to join Dishoom who are going to thrive and have a great experience. We've got the generalist team, which look after all things generalist teams would, right? From ER to payroll to more exciting things around well-being and, different areas in that particular world. And then the third team is our learning and development, our growth team, which is very much around, as you'd expect, like how do we help people in Dishoom grow and be the best at what they can be that the best runner, be that the best server, being promoted to a babu, which is a manager for us, or indeed in the kitchen, what's your journey there? So they're the 3 components, I guess, of my team. And
there's such a kind of magic feeling, when you talk to people who work for the business. What do you think that is? And how is that being created?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? I would think that, well, certainly for me, right? I mean, I'm a team member in Dishoom, so for me, that sense of kind of magic that's there is very much, it's kind of ingrained in the business. When Dishoom was quite small, I suppose it's probably quite easy to, how do you keep balances and checks on culture and values and people doing what you believe are the right things. As Dishoom's grown, what we've managed to do is keep that sort of smallish feel about us. So, we're almost 900 Dishoom at the moment. And, in Dishoom, we talk a lot around deepen and not dilute. And there's, this perception in most businesses or industries, or frankly anything, that as things grow in size, they become it's okay to be a bit shifted about how you scale, right? So that's great. And I think our co-founders very much came into Dishoom with the idea that, well, I don't think they ever believed Dishoom would be what it is today. I know Shaman or Cavi, they'd say that. But they would certainly say whatever they did, they didn't want it to dilute as it grew. And we obsess over that in Dishoom. So I think the magic really comes from having that small family, local friendly feel, but doing it on a slightly bigger scale and still having that at the core. That's certainly what I would say. Anyway, is that a question?
Yeah. You've seen such success with kind of regional openings that you know, are difficult for operators to do. And yeah, I'll come on to that later and ask you a bit about that. But I mean, I suppose we've got to talk about the, you know, the last 7 or 8 months. You know, what have been your greatest challenges as far as people over that time?
Yeah, right. I guess just the level of uncertainty. One thing that surprised me about the world during this period is how people have dealt with change and have dealt with the situation in general. If you had said in January we would be here now, I mean, I remember in March thinking, well, this won't be like a problem here, right? Surely, or anyway, it blows my mind, right? Yet as a world, we've kind of got our heads around it. We seem to be making the best of a bad situation. It doesn't mean it's been easy, but that's been hard. So I think the level of uncertainty has been huge. I think one thing any manager in any business wants to be able to provide to like their team, right, is certainty around here's where we're going, here's the direction. And you know, in a perfect world, you want to be able to say, look, we're in control of the situation, we're going to do A, B, C, and that's going to make everything okay, so don't worry. And for me, in the first time, certainly in my working career, we've had times where we couldn't say that. I remember when we closed our restaurants down, and we had a period, I can't remember how many, I mean, I should be able to tell you, that must have been like 7 or 8 days, where we were figuring out, you know, how are we going to be able to keep our team together, and how are we going to make sure we can pay their bills, and, you know, people have dependents, and like, you know, we really talk a lot about that to show them, you know, we employ 900 people who work with us, but actually, you know, do they have children and a family, and we're accountable for that. So, you know, be really considered when you're making decisions. And this was a time where we could be as considered as we liked, but it wasn't necessarily going to help. So I think that uncertainty and lack of control we had initially, and I think as time's gone on and we've reforecast and rebudgeted and sort of done that every other day, and made a new plan, I feel like maybe I feel like we're starting to turn a corner now. We're probably starting to be in control a little bit.
Yeah.
I think.
And how did you overcome that in terms of maybe comms, or, you know, throughout the last few months?
Yeah, absolutely. I think team comms has been huge, right? We're pretty great at communicating with our teams most of the time, but we're really deliberate about it. We spend a lot of time as a Babby House or our head office thinking around how do we keep team comms going live and everyone connected to it through different channels, different means, forums, etc. And we just turned that up massively. You know, we were having all team dial-ins every day when we were in the middle of this, and like the attendance was crazy. You know, we were hundreds, like 600-700 people regularly dialing in, and you know, we were following up in emails, and we were making a point of speaking to our babbies, our managers, and saying that if there's someone who your knows not on that call, give them a call, just check they're okay, right, and then give them the update if they want it, and if they don't, then hey, cool, like that's all right. So for us, it was a volume play, right? You know, sometimes we're really intricate with our team comms, and it's quite cool. This was no mass, and honestly, just to keep people in the loop, and anything we knew, making sure we were passing on, or you know, being candid about the things we didn't know. Those are the key things.
And has there been a certain piece of tech or something that you've used that, you know, you would think, right, that's really helped us?
Yeah, I guess Zoom. In all honesty, right, it's been pretty helpful. Zoom's the idea of being able to get people in a group call, share messaging, people can ask questions live in the moment and do that's pretty cool. I think video comms have been really helpful as well. We've had the senior team doing regular video comms and sending that to people. I guess for me, the two things, well, Zoom, I mean, I don't think I'd even heard of Zoom prior to this.
Yeah, no.
I had.
Only we had shares in Zoom.
Yeah, right, tell me about it. So yeah, I think Zoom's been huge, it's been really helpful. And then other than that, what's probably been really like old school, right? Pick up the phone. There's an individual you haven't seen or spoken to for a while, call them. So I think probably, Zoom, phone.
Yeah. And what have you learned, I suppose what surprised you about our sector over the last few months?
Yeah, I think there's a few things for this. I mean, if you go way back to like April, May, like Feed NHS, you know, we had businesses in our sector, like arts and food as well, right? Like struggling, like didn't know we had cash flow to get through. And yet in the same breath, we're also like, well, hang on a second, NHS are in a jam here. Like, how do we do that? And the people who came together and put that together, it's really blown me away. I mean, similar to sort of Marcus Rashford, that effort around feeding kids over half terms. I think as a sector, couldn't be prouder to be part of hospitality more so than ever, because of the way that we've really stepped up and helped in what is actually our moment of need as well, right? To me, that's really blown me away. I think some of the innovation as well during this period, businesses turning, who had never perhaps done delivery before, turning delivery on, and doing it in an incredible way. Like some of the home kits are incredible. Like my wife and I, we were lucky enough, we had a little baby, Nico, at the start of this. And normally you have a baby, you can't go out right after baby, whereas we were able to bring so many restaurants in, and that's pretty cool. Like Pizza Pilgrim kit, like blew my mind when that came out. Like one of the first ones. And I think the sort of innovation, the caring that we've shown, and also the sense of togetherness. I've spoken to stacks of people in our sector going, hey, look, what are you doing about this? And people are like really sharing and really, I always found our sector quite like that. But certainly during this period, I don't know, whether it be speaking to another HR colleague in another business saying, hey, we've got that furlough letter, yeah, cool, here it is, or what are you guys doing about this? And just sharing like resource and ideas. And it really, there's a real sense of community, right? Get through this together.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And it makes for an exciting future in the sector, doesn't it? That's, it's about this kind of collaboration and everybody trying to make the sector better. It is very exciting. Yeah. Just touching a little bit on recruitment and finding people. It's always amazing when I go into any Dishoom across the UK. You meet somebody like they're so Dishoom. How do you guys get that so right?
Yeah, so we did a project about 3 years ago. So historically, recruitment was always done in restaurants. And we used to hold open days twice a week, and kind of people would come in from different sources and meet with them, GMs or whatever manager at the time was there. We'd do an interview, maybe they'd do a shadow shift as well, and would hire on that basis. As we started to grow, we hired like people who do recruitment for a living, right? And it's their sort of specialism. And our head of recruitment, Jess, came up with an idea, which at the time I was like, it won't work, like no one will be into it. But she wanted to centralize recruitment and do all recruitment centrally, and then send people to site who had been recruited centrally. And for me, like stakeholder management, like empowering, like this is going the opposite to that. But absolutely did an incredible job, managed to get all of our general managers and head chefs into it. They were invited along to help build the process. They were also part of the process if they ever had capacity. If you're on a growth journey to show to a manager, you're absolutely part of this process to see how recruitment works. And I guess what we've done, we've centralized recruitment. So everyone goes through the same funnel, and you learn there, right? So I don't know, if you're a chef and you make naan bread and that's all you do all day, you make killer naan bread. If I was to go and make a naan bread once a week or twice a week, it's not going to happen. Whereas our recruitment team, pre-COVID would hire anywhere from sort of 5 to 25 people a week, and then you start being able to understand what recruitment streams are working, what good looks like in an interview process. And big thing for us, we dropped trial shifts as well.
Okay.
So we did quite a big piece of analysis and did some A/B testing, looking at do trial shifts mean people stay longer or more successful in that first few weeks.
Oh, really? How interesting.
And there was no correlation for us at all. Now, there was a correlation though. We started this centralized recruitment approach, and like I said, we had to take everyone on this journey. But to be fair, everyone, they were really open to it from the get-go, which is great. But we tried it in a couple of restaurants, and actually the success of hires that were done centrally versus that, and the numbers just jumped out. You're like, this makes sense. We got time to fill down for vacancies like 3 days that previously could be like 2-3 weeks on in a bad period. So yeah, the results have been pretty cool, to be honest. And we've used similar approaches in our more regional sites as well. So we've got people there who are much better trained than perhaps your average manager in terms of how to do recruitment and what to look out for, and to understand what Dishoom looks for as well. Yeah. So yeah, I guess our trick is doing what didn't feel right, but centralizing it. It worked.
And how do you think, what do you think the future of recruitment looks like? Do you think it's potentially got easier with a lot of people being in the market, or how do you feel about that?
I don't know. My first thought of that is, I think it's really sad at the moment that there was that article in the BBC a week or 2 weeks ago. There was a role in Manchester, I think, and there was, I can't remember the number of applications, but it was like hundreds of thousands. So, I guess first thought is that's sad, right? There's lots of people unemployed. What does that mean for the recruitment market? I guess, you look at that and you look at it in isolation, right? Well, I'm guessing that's an easier market, right? For that sort of team member recruitment. It's probably my first thought. But then equally, we've just hired a general manager in London, and we don't really go externally for managers. We always try and go internal staff first. 3 years now.
Yeah.
And we were looking, I can't tell you, maybe 9-10 months. So I think, I don't know, there's a one size fits all to that question, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
recruitment recently we found really, really tricky. I'm guessing if we were recruiting tomorrow for team members, there's an abundance of incredible businesses that have lost great people. So I'm guessing there'll be a period where it'll be okay, which is weird, right? Because last year, my recruitment team spent, I don't know how many hours going, like, Brexit, shit, what we're going to do. And, you know, we put lots of work into how do we get different recruitment streams. We're looking at going to more regional areas and helping people relocate. We were talking to landlords around having like better rent deals. And we were talking about how do we make better use of tier 5 sustainability visas and tying up with agencies in different countries. And we're doing all this work. And, you know, I think that work's all good work, right? I feel like we might have an easy period for however long COVID's here, but then hopefully, I mean, I want it to be tough, right? I want more businesses to open up. And that work will come good. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly from an outsider's perspective, what's kind of beautiful about Dishoom is that you don't settle for anything but perfection, do you? You will keep looking, even if you've got an opening looming. You know, you'll keep looking until you find, which is, you know, it isn't the norm. You know, people sometimes kind of untick a couple of boxes, but you guys are, yeah, you know exactly what you're looking for, and we'll wait to find it.
Yeah, we do that. I'm thinking like the conversation I've had with my ops director around doing that. Yeah, we definitely believe that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, our most recent opening in Birmingham, you know, we got the GM quite late. You know, I said about our London GM as well. We're looking for months and months. Met some incredible people, but just weren't quite right. And so yeah, we definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And as far as L&D, you mentioned this kind of growth element to part of your team. What does that look like within Dishoom? How is it structured?
Yeah, right. So ever evolving. If I think about from when I started to where we are now, where kind of mindset is in terms of where we want to go. So at the moment for us, we've spent probably the last 5-6 months during lockdown rethinking our L&D strategy and what does that look like. I think L&D's been on like a really big journey, certainly since I've been in hospitality, which is not too long. I think like 6-7 years in. You know, initially it was, you know, how special to take people off site and do a classroom session. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then sort of like blended learning was a thing, and it was like and then it sort of needs to be digital. And you know, these are like really broad like averages. But I think L&D naturally, where I hear it is from talking to like other like colleagues in the industry versus where it was, just moved forward so much in terms of the thought that goes into it. And we're speaking to Thomas, who looks after L&D for our business, and we decided where we're really going to focus going forward is the sort of user experience for L&D, right? So I guess learning and development, you know, at its worst can be quite transactional, and at its best can be really inspirational. And there's this big sort of area in between. And we're thinking about how do we make the whole experience of L&D something that people are like genuinely excited about and want to be a part of and be there for. You know, I'm in some learning events in the past, and I mean, I didn't want to leave. Like, it was incredible. Some of the speakers were so inspirational, and the whole sort of drama and theatre around it was great. And you know, we had this plan for our D1 opening prior to this all happening, and you know, we were like, right, why don't we make it like TED Talk based? So instead of it being this sort of a teacher telling you something, why don't we get a studio and actually set up like a TED Talk and make the lighting right, and have music, and make it like a real experience and an event that people will leave afterwards and be like, I've just never had that before. If you've not seen TED Talk, you'd even think we invented it. But so, you know, we were like, that could be pretty cool. And then, you know, when you start thinking about that, like, how do you invite people to something like that? You know, is it a diary invite? That's probably not, right? Do you go old school and send a paper invite, which has got something quite nice around it, or just getting really, really into the detail around like the things before that were transactional, that were taken for granted? That I think, I mean, just stealing from other IP people, like, you know, user experience is such a big set now. It wasn't a thing. You know, I've got one of my close friends worked in UX. You know, 2 years ago he was a designer. I think that whole world's moved on so much. And how do we take what's great in how companies think around digital platforms and then bring that into learning and development, even if it is face to face? So for us, we're spending lots of time thinking around the smaller bits, and how do we make them feel really special? People want to be.
I know it's a battle, isn't it? That you want to push forward with the technology, but you want to keep it, you know, personalised. Which, I've got visions of like wax stamps now. Dishoom training invites with wax stamps.
Right. You know, something like that. We do that when we invite people. So we do an old timers event, and anyone who's been with us over 2 years, we do an event once a year, and everyone comes to it. It's quite glitz and glam, and it's pretty cool. And the invite for that is really old school, right? It's like Telegram, and it is a wax stamp.
Oh, is it?
Like, when you receive that, that's quite cool, right? You sort of treasure that moment. And,
yeah, you were totally going as well. There's no chance you're not going with the wax stamp.
yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, I've been looking at the numbers for, I mean, with the event this year, clearly it's not happening, but, next year we'll do it as soon as we can. Due to COVID, one of the great upsides for me on it is, I've got a team now who have been with us, average at the service over a year. That event will have more of our team than not. It'd be more like an all-team party. We might not be able to open the restaurants.
One of the things I notice when talking to people within Dishoom is that they don't talk in numbers ever. They don't talk profit. They don't, but there must be, from a people's perspective, KPIs and ways that you measure your success. So how do you do that? What are really important measures to you and your people team?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that point you said about numbers, just to kind of like address that one more broadly as a business, how we think about numbers. Numbers for us are always like the applause at the end. So we do all the great work here, which is what we talk about loads, and then we kind of become part of that work as a team member. The numbers just sort of fall out at the bottom. And I think it's similar for how our team approach our work. So, right, of course, like we look at lag indicators, we have to, right? Like our board want to know about those, we need to be mindful of them. Do it after we think about what's the work we want to do. So when I think about my team and like judging what we want to do, we don't sit there sort of, at any point we're doing a review about how things are going, like geek out on our team turnover number. Like we would do that at other periods, but at that meeting that wouldn't happen. We'd be thinking about where have we innovated, where are we ahead of what's kind of the norm at the moment, what we've tried really hard at and balls up, but that's cool because we learn. We'll be talking way more conceptually about ideas and thoughts and work we're trying to do. That's definitely would be like our focus of conversation. And then, of course, right, like we look at lag indicators. I mentioned about recruitment. Recruitment, the whole big thing for us when we changed that was the idea, and we were like, wicked, that sounds awesome. And then we look at the numbers afterwards and go, do they work? And even if they didn't work, we still might do it, right? So say if recruitment turned out time to hire went up, well, but we got better hires. Okay, that's fine then. I guess we look at lag indicators, but the main thing we look at as a team is where have we innovated, what have we done that's cool, what's the general feedback from the business, how people interacting with the things that we're creating or launching or maintaining, whatever it is. They're probably the big things.
Amazing. And I think that definitely is why Dishoom does, one of the reasons why it doesn't feel like a brand, a traditional brand. It doesn't feel like that because of the numbers thing. Just in kind of looking at the future, really, what do you think has changed forever potentially in hospitality over the last 6 or 8 months?
I think there was a trajectory towards delivery. Like whenever Just Eat would release their sort of market size, it always seemed to be growing. So I think that tendency is probably sped up. So I think we were going there. I think we probably got to, maybe we even gone past the end point. We'll come back again, right? Once the normal world opens up. But I think delivery will always be a bigger part of our lives. I've got a friend who lives in New York, and you just don't cook at home in New York. So you just do that. And you go out most nights, and if not, your deliveries are awesome. Like the standard's really high. I think that sort of trajectory, the direction we're on now, I think stays. I'm not sure whether or not we go back to not doing as much of that. I think the innovation that's happened around kind of like at-home things, be it like say Peterborough or Hawksmoor or Honest, like all these great brands and these great sort of at-home kits. I think that stays. I think it becomes more of a special event, right? If you have your friends round and you're instead of going to Sainsbury's or whatever and buying your barbecue kit, you've managed to get this incredible home kit from Hawksmoor. That's awesome. Right? That's a really cool event. It's a magical. I think that's there as well. I don't know. I think the volumes drop off, right, of course, but I think that'll be part of it. I also think a move to local. I live in North London in High Barnet. It's like zone 5/zone 6, and a little bit of High Road Drive. But it's not particularly densely populated. We've had 3 coffee shops open up in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Which is really interesting, right? So whoever's opening those coffee shops either signed a deal early and has to open it. I don't know if it works like that in coffee shops. I don't think it does. I think that they probably placed a bet which says people are going to work from home a little bit more, so there'll be more footfall around here, and actually we'll trade and we'll be okay. So I think the idea around local restaurants and local things, I reckon Barnet High Street will be way more buoyant in 5 years' time than it would have been without COVID.
And then I suppose just to finish off, really, what's your dream as far as the people team specifically goes over the next, kind of 12 months, 2 years for Dishoom?
Yeah. My absolute thing I'm determined to do is to make sure, as much as we can influence it, everyone who's in Dishoom at the moment is here in 12 months. We don't want to lose anyone as a result. I mean, clearly no one wants to lose anyone as a result of this, but anything we can do to make sure we don't do that, and anything my team can help do to facilitate that, is absolutely huge. I think we're in this unique position where I think we might also be able to get to a place where we're only ever hiring externally for our sort of most, people with least experience, right? So our, it might be potentially our expo and runner team. We might only have to hire at that place and then train that team to either become the best runners or expos, or also move across and be servers, which is pretty cool. I feel like if we can get to a place as a team where we're helping people develop and grow enough that they wouldn't look to leave, now's the time when you could probably do that because of what's going on in the external market.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that we could get there. I think they're probably my two things: everyone here and everyone feeling like I'm not here because there's nothing else. I'm here because actually I'm growing, I'm developing. And if we achieve that in the next 12 months, it's the dream, right? So
amazing. Listen, thank you.